is Tasha. I am back with another video. Thank you so much for stopping into my channel. I know you are here for the Married at First Sight Part 2, the reunion review. But right quick, I'm going to put a little plug of a video I just posted yesterday of a sponsor video. I used a service called Apostrophe, which is basically an online dermatologist. And it has cleared up my skin tremendously, especially from acne. So I just want to do a quick plug that if you don't mind, go ahead over there and head on to that video. It's only about 10 minutes long, and show that video some love. There's also some promo code information at the bottom if you would like to try it for yourself to get your skin popping. Okay? All right, so got the ad out of the way. So now we're going to jump into the Married at First Sight review, y'all. This will be the last time we have to talk about it. At least I think. At least I hope so. We'll see. So, disclaimer. For some reason, I don't watch the show live because I can't deal with all the commercials. And on my DVR, I had 2 Married at First Sights recorded. So, one of them showed a reunion that was only an hour long, and then the other had a reunion that was 3 hours long. So, of course, because I'm over the season, I picked the 1 hour episode and I watched it. And then I was like, so what is the other one? Why is there 2 of them on here if it's the same thing? So I go to select the other video, and I essentially fast forwarded the first hour because I was like, well, the one I just watched was an hour. So I fast forwarded the hour. And then once I got to the hour mark, it started playing stuff in the episode I just watched that was earlier in the hour mark. So I'm like, oh shoot, I've obviously missed some stuff, which I believe is what happened last week, because after I did my review, I watched some other reviews and I was like, I don't recall that. I don't recall that. Maybe I am really over it and I just completely blacked out, but I didn't remember certain scenes. And I think that's why, again, because it did the same thing last week and I just didn't double check. But this week I double checked. I have no idea why they would have 2 versions of the reunion posted, because it literally, the 1 hour one was a start and a finish. It wasn't a continuation. You didn't see, like, it started from the very beginning and it ended. So it is very weird that they would even waste the time doing that. But anyway, so I say all that to say that if my notes are kind of out of order and all over the place, it's because I watched the 1 hour one first, and then when I went back to watch the other one, I tried to pick the pieces that were not inside of the very first episode that I watched to make sure that I wasn't missing any key points that we needed to discuss here today. So with that being said, let's get into the review, y'all. So, of course, this episode picks right back up where the other one left off, with Chris and Pastor Dwight getting into it, him storming off, grabbing his backpack like Dora the Explorer and ready to run outside to his car. And again, Paige goes chasing after him. And I'm like, this is why this Negro continues to act like this, because somebody is always chasing after him to baby him into making him not feel so bad about his actions. Like, stop it. She should have just let him walk away. I would have sat pretty on the couch and let him walk away and let the producers deal with it if they wanted to get into it. But I'm not walking after you. I'm not getting in your car. I'm not talking to you about your behavior. You are grown. Cut it out, sir. So after the toddler comes back, he requests that Pastor Dwight not come back. So Pastor Dwight did not come back. Kristen leaves, and Kevin, the host, is able to talk to Paige by herself. She says she felt robbed about the whole experience, but she wanted to reassure, I guess, us viewers that she is not weak-willed. And we like, okay, you say that, but it played out a little bit differently on TV, but if you say so, okay. So while it's like she didn't hear everything that he said when he was talking to other people on the show, and she didn't see that till after the fact, she heard what he was verbally telling her. And to me, that was enough. So if you say so, Paige. But she says she is basically emotionally drained and that this whole thing was a circus. We then see her friend Nancy come in, and Nancy looks fabulous. So if y'all remember Nancy, Nancy was the bridesmaid at the reception that had the locks, and she had the locks in like this 2 pigtail petal hairstyle, really cute. But she was the one that I was like, yeah, I like her, because she seems like she's going to, tell the truth. But she came in And basically Nancy came in and she was not with the BS. She said that she bit her tongue a little bit more than she wished she would have when it came to Chris, but pretty much immediately she felt like this ain't gonna work because of course, the behavior that Chris displayed at the reception. But she says that she couldn't make Paige see what they saw. And when Kevin kind of asks basically, you know, where was Paige friends? Where was Paige family? Because that's kind of all the questions that we had as viewers is like, where your people at to rescue you from this? Nancy was like, listen, because we don't act like Paige. We ain't all poised and put together and acting all, you know, prim and proper like her. We not gonna act like that. So I guess that's why we didn't see her friends, because Nancy acted like she was, you know, ready to be bucked. She was like, if I would have seen him, might have throw a shoe at him or something. I was like, and nobody would blame you for it, girl. So Kevin asked Nancy if she accepts Chris' apology. Remember, he did this whole apology last week to basically Paige, friends and family, but not necessarily to her. And she says no. And I'm like, yes, friend, exactly. No, because it's a bunch of BS. She says, Chris is the reason why mental health is so important in the Black community. Yes, he needs help. Kevin then asks her if Paige is okay, and she says no, her friend is not okay, that she's going to have to unpack all of that damage that Chris has done. And I'm just so happy that Paige has a friend like Nancy in her corner. I hope that she really takes heed to the things that she is saying and know that she's not saying it maliciously, but she's actually saying it so that you can make sure that you heal and take care of yourself, so that for one, you don't take that baggage from Chris into another relationship. And if you ever were to encounter someone again like Chris, that you would see the red flags a lot sooner and get yourself away from that, okay? So we go to the next couple that I don't ever care to see on my TV again, Jacob and Haley. Y'all already know I'm a part of the apparent minority when it comes to Married at First Sight and Chris and Jacob and Haley. Most people are like, Jacob's such a good guy. Haley is a Karen. I just don't get it. I really dislike Jacob. I dislike him. Not that I love Haley, but I dislike him more than I dislike her. But he tried to come to the reunion, basically dressed to prove a point, you know, ripped jeans, little new blazer, beard, try to do a little different haircut. Jacob, I see you, but that don't cover up a boring personality. So, you know, try again. Haley says that, of course, she went into the marriage with the best intentions, which I think was true until she saw him. And then because she was not physically attracted to him, it was hard for her to get out of her own head about that whole situation. Although I really do think she tried, because when they had good times, like when they got together and they like played and did go-kart, and when they did have like anniversary dinners and things like that, I don't feel like Haley was in a negative place with him, but Jacob always brought up something negative that made them have an argument at that time. Kevin asks if Jacob has anything to say to her, like, you look nice, you look beautiful, and he's like, no. And again, Jacob, he is just being super petty. Just because she didn't find him attractive, he is basically being an asshole in his defense of, no, she didn't like me, so I'm not gonna say nothing good about her. And that's how he acted throughout the season, honestly, and throughout this reunion. He said that he was himself the entire time and that Haley just didn't like him, and it seems like he just couldn't get over the fact that she didn't like him. And I think he stood in his own way in that aspect. I truly do think if he could have let go a little bit and stopped applying so much pressure of where they stood, where they were going, if she liked him, hugging, holding hands, kissing, if he didn't apply so much of that and he was just letting it loose and let things happen as they naturally happen and not trying to pressure it because they were married, they would have worked out. But he just couldn't accept the fact that she didn't find him attractive. Because I don't think at any time Haley was rude or nasty the way that Chris was, although she wasn't attracted to him, just like Chris wasn't attracted to Paige. I just don't think they were on the same page with that. But Jacob's attitude really didn't warrant how she was treating him, because she wasn't treating him that bad. In my opinion, I didn't think so. But he says they basically went through 8 weeks of hell. And then he didn't like that she was saying on decision day that he didn't try. And he thinks he tried a whole lot. She thinks she tried a whole lot. I just think on that aspect, they're just on two different pages. They didn't know each other well enough before to know their previous behaviors, to know that what they're doing now is a change behavior. So they really have no baseline to compare it to. So while it's like, you're not trying enough, you're not trying enough, in each of their own respective places, they were trying beyond what they probably would have normally tried. But because you're marrying someone as a stranger, they don't know what you were previously to that. So I think that's really where the disconnect came from them. It just didn't match. They just didn't like each other. But I feel like either Jacob is lying, production just skipped over a whole bunch of stuff to fit the narrative. But he basically tried to act like he was so engaged. He tried so much. And I'm just like, but where? Like, I am confused as to where all of this trying came from. So if I know it was a whole lot of episodes and it was a whole lot of stuff. If I missed something, please let me know in the comments below that. I need specific instances of him really trying, other than trying on the new clothes that she gave him. And I don't know, y'all. I ain't got it. But Kevin also brings up Jamie and Doug. So I've been watching this show since the very first episode, the very first season. So if you have, you know that there's a couple, Jamie and Doug, who Jamie really despised Doug. Like, she was not physically attracted to him at all. She even broke down crying after they got married because she was just not attracted to him throughout their whole time during the experiment. I don't even think they might have kissed once, but of course it didn't consummate their marriage. Like, they did not do anything. But Doug just continued to just be himself. He didn't apply pressure to Jamie. Like, it was just so, it was similar to what we're dealing with, but Doug behaved in the opposite way of how Jacob did, and now they're still happily married with 2 children. So again, I think if Jacob could have let loose just a little bit, that it maybe have been a little bit better. And basically, Jacob couldn't get out of his own head, and I believe Kevin made that notion as well. And then Haley also noted, which I've noted in a few of my reviews, of Jacob kind of assumes what's going to happen before it happens. So he makes up the scenario in his head, and he makes up what Haley's reaction is going to be without truly giving her the opportunity to have said reaction. And he then bases his behavior off of the reaction he has made up in his head. Make sense? But that's how I feel like Jacob operates. So he really needs to just kind of figure out why he does that and get some probably dig deep, get some therapy. I don't know, but you need to figure out why you do that, because that's not gonna suit you well in any relationship that you go in going forward. Let's see. They go and they start talking about the bracelet all over again, and we have to relive that whole situation with the bracelet not being in the apartment and him taking it back to get his money back. And I'm just like, I don't care anymore. Y'all just don't like each other. But Kevin does say that Jacob sounded like a broken record. Basically kept saying that she doesn't like me. She doesn't like me. She doesn't like me. And I was like, yes, finally. He just kept saying that over and over, as if him saying it was going to make her like him. Dude, that's only going to turn her off more. That is only going to turn her off even more. So just get over it. And he's like, I've never had anybody that, has, been with me or been in a relationship or had sex with me that didn't like me. Because those relationships that you've had in the past happened organically, where someone maybe was attracted to you and y'all began to date that way. This was not that situation, Jacob. This was not it. Kevin did say that, she did try, because y'all did have sex. Y'all consummated the marriage, so she tried. And Jacob was like, I don't know about that. And I'll be honest, I don't know about that either. If that really was an effort of Haley trying, because we know she's a little bit more reserved and not affectionate. So that could have been her trying to just kind of go all the way in, and then her realizing it was a mistake and pulling back, or him not being good in bed and her pulling back, or it just could have been drunk sex. I don't know, and I'm on the fence with that one, so I just don't get it. But Jacob is still extremely salty, although he says he has no animosity towards her. I don't believe him, because he's throwing shots at her every chance that he gets. And as a side note, Married at First Sight on their Instagram page, I'll screenshot it and put it somewhere over here. But they had a small clip of the 2 of them, and I was like, he's not a catch, or I'm not a fan, or something like that. And I put up the emoji of 2 fingers and put his name, Jacob. Y'all, why did he come back to my post? Like there was a bunch of other posts there talking about him, but he came back to mine and he put up the deuces and tagged me in it so that I could see. So I was like, obviously you're still pressed if you up in the married at first sight comments having to reply to people. Jacob, you don't get out my face with this. So now they have a segment with the guys. Mine is Chris, of course. And they get the guy's opinion on him not showing up. And Vincent says he understands both sides. And I'm like, sir, what you mean you understand both sides? I'm not sure how any man could understand any side that Chris was coming from, because he was an asshole the entire time. And it makes me side-eye Vincent like, what you mean you see both sides? He did nothing but treat that girl like trash the entire 8 weeks. Brianna, talk to him about that, because I'm not sure how he understood that behavior. But they basically all say they have a strong bond, just like the ladies. They all, text and talk and things like that. And again, I don't know if I really buy it, just like I don't know if I really buy the girls being friends, because they just don't seem like they would mesh well outside of this experiment. And I'm not down with just being friends because we all experience something together. Like, no, I got to really be clicking you and feeling you. But anyway, that's what they said. And then they revisit the whole girls' night situation that happened in Vegas with Haley and Jacob. So, of course, Haley saying it was a girls' night. Jacob then finding out that it was all the couples downstairs chatting it up and he wasn't invited. So they didn't ask the guys, like, so was it really a girl night? And the guys did confirm that yes, it did start out as a girl night. And that's what their wives had told him. And then I think Eric had gone down and then he kind of crashed it. And then one of the other guys, I can't remember which one between Vincent and the other guy, came down and it kind of just turned into what it was. And then, of course, Jacob was like, well, that's what I just wanted Haley to just tell me everybody was there. Quit whining about it. It is over with and it's not that big of a deal. Just be quiet. Oh, I just don't get it. Anyway, they asked Ryan, Vincent, and Eric how it is sharing this spaces with their spouses since all of their wives moved into their place. They said they, of course, had to make space for them, but they made it work just to, make them happy since they were moving into their spaces. They asked the guys questions about Eric and Virginia. So they asked about her partying and if she was ready to be married. And basically, I think they asked Vincent and Ryan, I believe. And they basically both danced around the question as to not say bad things about this man's wife. So I get it. But that's all right. Y'all don't have to be honest. But I know, I get it. You don't want to talk about this man's wife like that. But y'all know what the truth is around Virginia. Next, they bring in the experts to talk about the couples. And they are happy that 3 out of the 5 couples are making it. And I'm like, yeah, I guess. But let's see. If we're being honest, Brianna and Vincent probably was the only couple that should have made it. All the other ones have major red flags still going on in their relationship. But, experts, I'm going to let y'all live. They say the biggest win this season, they would say, of course, is Bri and Vincent. Of course, the biggest regret was Chris. Kevin asks about the surprises with each couple. They say Bri and Vincent worked out on paper, and thankfully they worked out in person because their chemistry was really good. They say they did not know that Vincent was going to be so proud. Like they knew he was a proud man, but not so proud that his pride would kind of get in the way and everything would kind of be looked at as disrespectful when it came to him, and he would be embarrassed so easily. When it comes to Haley and Jacob, Pastor Cal wanted Jacob to come out of his shell a bit more and wanted Haley to be a little bit more open. And of course, we know they were hoping that this whole opposite attracts thing would work with them, but didn't work out. Dr. V and Dr. Pepper also says that Jacob tried over and over and he was just, rejected over and over again. And it just like somebody just can't deal with that much rejection. So again, I'm like, where was all the rejection, all the trying? So did production really just do a crappy job of editing, or did I totally miss something in these episodes? Because again, I'm having a hard time figuring out what the heck they talking about. But Pastor Cal basically says that Jacob just really got stuck on the attraction and he just couldn't move forward. And I agree. That's where he really got stuck. Like he just could not believe that a woman did not find him attractive. And I was just like, she did. Get over it. Like, you can't do anything about it. But I agree with Pastor Cal on that one. But they showed the fishbowl exercise that was not shown on the show with Haley and Jacob. So where they had a fishbowl, they had to pull out some things that they had to do, like hold hands, tell a story, or kiss each other like their first kiss and things like that. So even with the holding hands, we know Haley had an issue with that, but she did end up holding his hand, as the thing said that they pull out of the fishbowl. And then one of them said to kiss your partner like you did your first kiss. So they didn't do that, of course. But then when they go back to the experts, Dr. Pepper says that you can just show empathy for someone, hold their hand and do nice stuff. And I'm just like, but she did hold his hand. And I totally disagree with Dr. Pepper of you can show empathy to someone without doing things that are uncomfortable for you. And then if Haley would have went along and showed all this affection because of whatever questions and things they were pulling from the fishbowl, then y'all would have gotten on her about, well, why did she do all that knowing she didn't like him? So which way do you want it? You can't have it both ways. Like, the child held his hand. That was enough with everything that she went through. Like, get over it. So I really was like, yeah, Dr. Pepper, you on that BS. But okay. If y'all think so. But in my opinion, again, Haley, she tried. She wasn't a Chris, and just completely was terrible to Jacob the whole time. But whatever. But anyway, I just, at this point, I'm like, just give us new experts, because I'm about tired of all y'all. But they move on to Virginia and Eric. And Kevin says they hit the nail on the head with this one. And I'm like, were we watching the same show? They hit the nail on the head with Virginia and Eric? Okay. But they said they knew Virginia needed someone stable, and they thought that he could stabilize her. And again, I'm like, what? Virginia is a young 20-something party goer that loves to hang out. She has to just get that out of her system before needing or wanting to settle down and get married with someone. She needs to be stable on her own before getting into a relationship or a marriage with someone else. That's not anyone's job to stabilize her, especially not somebody as demanding and as fatherly as Eric is. Like, I just don't even know about the experts at this point. So they talk about Clara and Ryan, and Dr. V says she was always concerned that Clara wasn't opening up to Ryan, which we saw all season, and we all agree with that she just kind of went along whatever Ryan says, and she still did that at the reunion. Pastor Cal says if they keep the communication going, and they can just continue to be vulnerable to each other, they'll be a great couple. But I'm like, okay. Then they unpack Chris and Paige and recall the things that Chris said to Pastor Cal during their one-on-one. Pastor Cal said that it was really difficult to listen to Chris do all that, because he basically had to just keep his composure because he's at work and he needed to be a professional. But if these cameras wasn't on Chris, I'd be letting you have it. It's basically what Pastor Cal implied. Dr. V said it was very concerning for Paige to continue in the marriage when they saw all the red flags. But Pastor Cal said, of course, that he had concerns from the beginning. He's always said that about Chris, because Chris had this image of what beauty looked like in his mind. And of course, when you're meeting someone at first sight, you don't know what that person looks like and if they will meet up to your standard of beauty. So again, even on that alone, I don't think he should have been picked, because Dr. V and Dr. Pepper was like, oh, but he said he was open and he didn't care about this and this and that. But obviously, Pastor Cal picked up on something that he said or whatever else was happening that looks were very much so important. And in that instance, you kind of need to take a man's opinion on it. But of course, we move on because we know what happened with that. But Kevin said he saw really a young woman that was broken through all the humiliation that she experienced in reference to Paige. And Dr. Pepper says she doesn't think she's broken. And I'm like, Dr. Pepper, ain't you a therapist or something? What you mean you don't see that she's broken? You should be able to see that she's putting on a front to survive and push through this. But that child has some serious broken pieces that she's going to have to repair with herself with the damage that Chris has done. Dr. Pepper, throw the experts away. So then all the couples come together except for Chris, as you know, he didn't show up. So Vincent is asked what's the craziest thing he received via social media. And he was like the whole stripper thing. So if you remember at the bachelor party, he was really talking to the stripper and like, you know, saying that he was about to marry somebody he hadn't seen. And oh, if it was going to be you, I was going to be happy. So I was just like, okay. Asked Jacob the same thing. Jacob says, you know, reading the comments, but the comments aren't a big deal. And I'm like, comments aren't a big deal? You replied to me. Okay, Jacob. Then they show how Ryan kept saying everything was his jam. And I was just like, I didn't even realize how many times he said that, just because he said, sure, for sure, 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 so many other times that I was like, you surely had to pick up on one of the 50 million times he said that. Then we see the dinner blow up with all the couples that happened in Vegas, when basically Chris gave out his fake apologies and then was ready to fight Eric and Virginia 10 minutes later. Paige apologized again for him. And I'm like, Paige, girl, shut up. Why do you keep apologizing for him? He is grown. He makes his own choices. He did these things, not you. And you are no longer tied to him in that way as, you know, representing for yourself and your husband. Girl, bye. We tired of hearing you apologize or run after this man. I am over it. But Virginia basically says that, you know, Chris could have kept that apology because she can see right through the BS. And I'm like, exactly. But they recap the conversation also that Virginia and Eric had with Pastor Cal, where he contradicted himself 10 times about the whole sleeping on her guy friend's couch. And then they kind of get Ryan and Clara's opinion on it. And Claire's like, you know, I'd rather him sleep on somebody's couch than, you know, drive home unsafe. And Ryan's like, you know, it's about trust and accountability. And then Virginia's like, I just wanted to be clear that I never said I was going to go sleeping on my best guy friend's couch. And I'm like, you may not have explicitly stated that, but everything that you said implied that it's cool, right? If it happens, it's not a big deal. Okay. And then we do have to relive all of Jacob living in the 80s. And I was like, geesh, it was a lot. And I just didn't care to take a whole bunch of notes on that because I'm like, it was a lot. They then kind of show the past couples asking them some questions. So I'll just run through what they said. But it was pretty boring, if I'm being honest with y'all. But they show Karen and Miles. And Miles asks Paige how she's doing, how she's been helping herself. And she says going through therapy and with the support of family, friends, and of course the cast. Deanna and Greg asked Virginia if she had to choose between Eric and Rocky, who would she choose? And basically Virginia says, you know, I know Rocky's a dog, but I'm going to choose Rocky. And then Shanice and Jeppy, they asked Clara if she's a member of the Mile High Club, because of course she's a flight attendant. And she's like, no. Amani and Woody asked Haley what she learned about herself. And she said she did a lot of self-reflection and being more comfortable talking about that. Amani also asked Eric if this process is good for someone who's been married before. And he says that, you know, he thinks it's the same either way because he's basically started off, of course, on a fresh slate. Although he hinged so heavily on he had done this before, he'd been married before he got all this experience. So I was like, okay, Eric, if you say so. We then see Christine and Keith, and they asked Vincent if he talks dirty to, well, they asked Brianna if Vincent talks dirty to her in Spanish or English. She says that he does both, but she prefers the Spanish. And then Beth and Jamie asked Jacob if he has had basic Caucasian sex in his sauna. Because if y'all saw the season with Beth and Jamie, that Beth told Jamie he just like to have basic Caucasian sex. That was so funny. But Jake says no one's been getting it on in the sauna. But they basically say they're going to get final words from everyone. Paige says that it's been very emotional and painful experience. And she had to really acknowledge the toxic situation that she was in and put herself first. Clara says she asks that us internet people, please just be kind. You don't know us, so just be kind or just don't say anything at all. Girl, you put yourself on a reality TV show. Once you do that, you open yourself up to everybody's thoughts and opinions on what you do in your marriage. Not saying it's right, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's what you get when you open yourself up to the world. So Clara, sorry girl, it just comes with the territory. They basically show a clip as they are finishing up the episode. And they show some of the couples, and then they kind of look like they show Paige being on a date, and they show this girl at Jacob's house like he's on a date. So I'm like, is this going to be another episode that's coming on next week, or is this kind of just showing us that they had moved on? I don't know, but I'm over it. So even if they show something next week, I might not even watch it. I'm probably certainly not reviewing it because I'm just happy for this show to be over this season. And I hope next season is better. And as you guys saw from the previews, we do not have to wait long. Married at First Sight literally just keeps grinding out these shows. Like, they have the next season coming up in July, which is going to be in the great state of Texas, in Houston specifically. So we'll see. Hopefully it is not as much of this foolishness that we saw this season. While it is, you know, entertaining for us to watch, it got very annoying at times, and you still are dealing with real people. So, you know, Paige is still going to have to deal with all that internal cleanup that she has to do with herself because of the situation that these experts put her in. So we'll see how next season goes, y'all. Please, of course, you know, as usual, put your thoughts and comments, questions. Let's chat it up in the comments below. Are y'all just as happy as I am that we have closed the book on this chapter in Married at First Sight? I'm ecstatic that I don't have to see these couples on my TV anymore. Thank y'all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.